Dan, it's draft week, and my phone lines are open. I'm open to trading up, trading down, or staying put to get the best player available. He's Dan Wiederer from the Chicago Tribune. I'm Dionne Miller from ABC 7. What did we hear from Ryan Pace this year that we haven't heard over the last 7 years, Dan?
Oh, I get a kick out of it, Dionne, because Ryan is kind enough to apologize to us before his annual pre-draft press conference because he knows he can't say anything. He knows we're going to try to trick him into saying something that gives away their intentions. We know that it's going to end with all of us feeling like, all right, let's just get this draft going anyway. Draft week is one of my favorite weeks of the year, mostly because it ends months of noise and speculation and rumor. And by Saturday evening, you just have a small collection of new players on the roster of the football team you cover, and you don't have to deal with all the possibilities and the hypotheticals and the rumors. The Bears, Dionne, as we know, have a lot of work to get done this weekend, and it starts at one position and one position only. And we know that the intention heading into Thursday night, perhaps heading into Friday night, is to find a new quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. And I found it interesting that at the end of his presser yesterday, Pace had said, if we draft a quarterback, I feel comfortable putting him in the room that he's in. No, when, sir, when you draft a quarterback. Like, it's not a matter of if, it has to be when. I would love to have a camera on Andy Dalton during all of this because I feel like this is totally deja vu. Is he going to be at some small gathering celebrating his position as QB1 when they make some grand glorious announcement? I was interested too in listening to Pace because it is the first time that he's been there that not picking in the first round in the top 10. I think you pointed that out. And that is an interesting position. And I feel like for the first time, a lot of people are advising him to just stay put. And that hasn't been his MO in the past. And I'm curious to see how he'll navigate in these next hours until the draft begins and seeing how these chips fall. That is exciting to me too, especially in that first round after the obvious of the number 1 overall pick and then moving on and seeing how teams move up and down. I do enjoy draft week as well. And I'm hopeful that we'll get to Saturday and feel like he didn't reach. I think last year I felt like he didn't reach with Cole Kmet. I felt like he chose players that were best available, made sense, filled needs, and like it wasn't the reach that I felt like we've seen from him in the past.
Well, the quarterback position is a different animal, and so it's easier not to reach at tight end. It's easier not to reach at cornerback like they did with Jalen Johnson a year ago, where they got a player of value at a good spot on the board and turned him into what looks to be a long-term starter. This is going to be fascinating, Dionne, because the Bears' grandest dreams are not within their control. This isn't 2017 where you're picking in the top 3 and then you're moving up to number 2 and you're basically getting the exact player that you want. You're back at number 20 now. And if you want to move up, you've got to do 2 things. You've got to pay a hefty price to climb the draft board to get to where you want to go. And you also have to find a trade partner willing to go all the way back down to number 20. And you talk to people around the league and they say that's going to be as big as an obstacle as anything for the Bears heading into this draft, is finding someone that says, okay, yeah, we're cool giving up our pick in the top 10 to slide all the way back down to number 20. So how do you sweeten that deal? If the Bears are able to find one of these top 5 quarterbacks that slides a little bit and they're eyeing that 7, 8, 9 range where you've got the Lions, the Panthers, and the Broncos all there sort of settled at quarterback, but still kind of saying, hey, we might still take one. Now it gets interesting. And the aggressiveness of Ryan Pace will be on display. I think, again, this is the first time since he united with Matt Nagy 3 years ago that they will have the same sort of they'll be in the same boat trying to get this quarterback. And so we'll see how it shakes out. So much happens above them and that is out of their control. And then they have to be ready, as Ryan said, to have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E. You got to have a lot of different plans ready when you're picking at number 20.
Would you be surprised if they stayed where they were at because of that, because so much is out of their control?
No, I wouldn't be shocked. I would be surprised if they went into the night intending to stay at number 20. I think their intention is to get up there. I don't think that they're necessarily going to have full control of that. Look, you've got other teams, the football team. Sorry, I can't make that mistake here in 2021. Okay. The football team, the New England Patriots are looking for their quarterback of the future. I'm not sure if you heard Tom Brady went to Tampa and won a Super Bowl. And so they're going to be looking to climb the draft board. So there could be a situation where things beyond the Bears' control leave them stuck at number 20, which then, Dionne, leaves them with a little bit of a sleepless night on Thursday and heading into Friday where they will have to be aggressive then. And in my opinion, they will have to pull the trigger to move up into the top 3, 4, 5 picks of the second round to make sure that quarterback box is checked.
No, I'm in the past, he's talked about not being afraid to be aggressive. I didn't hear that as much yesterday when he was talking about what the needs are for the team. And he just didn't sound as ambitious as he has in the past. But I think that there's residual from 2017 from the fact that that went so crazy awry, and he had control and could pick the one he wanted, which is still mind-boggling that was Mitch Trubisky, but it was. And so now hopefully that has made him not overthink like he has in the past and not reach and not make that mistake again. And they can't afford it. They cannot afford it. They have to find somebody that fills a need. I disagree with Ted Phillips that it's not just the quarterback and not winning games. There are other holes on this roster. This is not insert QB and go. It isn't. And I'd love for that to be the case, but it isn't. And so you have to weigh all of that out based on who's available. And I'm not seeing those top 5 quarterbacks. I'm not seeing a one-off that's going to tumble into even 10 to 20. I really don't. And so how Ryan Pace is going to navigate that is going to be incredibly fascinating.
I agree with you, because I think if you want one of those top 5 guys, you've got to get it in the top 10, and you have to figure out what that cost is. And so it's going to be fascinating to see and to try to learn in the days and weeks ahead how they kind of have this quarterback board stacked, because that's going to be important to know, hey, maybe the guy that they love the most gets picked at number 3 by the 49ers. And now all of a sudden you say, well, at this point, we're willing to use the number 20 overall pick on again, a player that fills a different need for us, and we can come back on day 2 and get a guy like a Davis Mills, a Kyle Trask, the day 2 guys that will be out there, Kellen Mond from Texas A&M.
Yeah.
But you have to check that box. Look, Ryan and Matt have been blessed with the luxury of the last 3 months of feeling what their chair inside Hallis Hall feels like. How hot is that temperature? What do George and Ted tell them about the expectations going forward? And I know internally they're both motivated to show that they can get this position right together. That's why they use the word collaborative and collaboration and collaborate 1,000 times in January, because they wanted to go into this together with their staffs. John DeFilippo, Bill Lazor, part of that process, the scouting staff part of this as well, and try to identify a guy who can finally be the answer at that position. It would be stunning if we woke up on Saturday morning and the Bears still didn't have a quarterback in their draft class. The city would be on fire.
On fire, and they have to. And I'm curious about the collaboration and how much guys like Lazor and Flip and Nagy really, how loudly their voices really are resonating in that room. Like, wouldn't you want to be in the war room? Like, wouldn't you want to? It was so fun to watch this group of 10 enjoy catered dinner and overthink absolutely everything. Like, it would be just so much fun to kind of watch them navigate this and see whose voices Pace is ready to listen to, because unlike 17, Nagy knows what he doesn't want. He knows what he's looking for to fit his offense and to kind of groom this quarterback. It would be so fascinating to watch and see how these voices are resonating, because I feel like they have to be louder than Pace at this point because of his history. Don't you think?
Yeah. And unlike 2017, the head coach is in tune and has had a lot of input in the process of trying to uncover which quarterbacks they love and which quarterbacks they don't love so much. And Ryan told us on Tuesday as well that he's kept George McCaskey in the loop at every step of this process. And that's not to say that George is meddling or micromanaging. It's just a natural part of the process where you add those checks and balances, you add some philosophy questions and some thoughts from the owner that to say, hey, have you thought about this? Have you considered this? And then that brings that collaboration into full effect. And it's a valuable part of the process. It really is. It didn't exist to the level it needed to in 2017. The Bears are promising that they've corrected it to some level. Now, whether that gets them their answer at quarterback is a totally different question. But man, it is time to figure out which direction they go with this. And I'll tell you, Justin Fields and Mac Jones are 2 guys that if they slipped to the bottom part of that top 10 and the Bears went up and got them, I think Chicago should be excited that they've taken that swing at that position with guys of that caliber. I leave Trey Lance off that list for 2 reasons. Number one, the limited college experience. Yeah. It's such a gamble given what we experienced with Mitch Trubisky and what his limited college experience translated to be. And number 2, North Dakota State is not the city of Chicago in the NFL, right? And so at least with Mac Jones and Justin Fields, you've had guys who have played on the huge stage for the spotlight programs of college football and understand sort of what the intensity of that spotlight can be. I want that in a quarterback that I'm bringing into Chicago in this market. I think Mitch struggled early on in his career to understand what that was all about. He tried to get there, but not having that experience coming in puts you through a whole different learning process than guys who have already been under that spotlight for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, 2017 called and said, hey, we've been there and done that. You can't reach on a quarterback with limited college experience at a not Power 5 conference, right? That hasn't been on that big stage. Lesson learned, please. I think tables will be flipped upside down if they would make some sort of a move to go that route. I agree with you. Justin Fields, I don't understand some of the bad rap or the question marks surrounding a guy who has performed at such a high level on the biggest stages. And I feel like that's one. I mean, if he falls, you have to be very aggressive to try to get a quarterback like that. I truly think he can translate to the next level and be ready for it instantly. And I think that, and then you think about the experience of an Andy Dalton and even a Nick Foles and bringing a guy into a room that has that can be, but now I'm feeling like that's tangible progress for the quarterback position for the Bears.
Well, and understand this, Justin Fields has tremendous upside. He will need polish and development. And Matt was part of the process in 2017 in Kansas City. That is the lottery ticket that NFL teams dream of, to wake up in the morning in the low 20s and go to bed with the number 10 overall pick as Patrick Mahomes, and then have him be a MVP, a Super Bowl winner, and a guy who's going to compete for championships for the rest of his career. Matt saw what the development process was with Patrick and able to keep him behind Alex Smith for the entirety of his rookie season and bring him along to a level where he was ready for the stage when it was time for him to take the stage. And so I don't think that's lost on Matt Nagy in terms of the time that is required for some of these younger quarterbacks to understand what the NFL game is all about. That's part of why Andy Dalton's here. It's part of why Nick Foles is still here. They want to create an environment that doesn't rush a rookie onto the stage before he's ready. We'll see if they're able to succeed with it. It's going to be fascinating because, again, I do really feel like by Monday we're going to have a whole new quarterback that we're going to be diving deep into his past, deep into his history, trying to figure out, does he check all the boxes? Can he succeed? Also sort of clouded by the idea that no one ever succeeds in this city at that position, right? And so that's one thing that new quarterback is going to have to be ready for, that there's going to be a level of skepticism here amongst the outsiders and the general public that they're going to have to deal with until they prove that they're worthy of being a long-term answer at the position.
Skepticism. Jim McMahon said this is where quarterbacks come to die. I mean, he didn't mince any words there. Like that can be frightening for a young quarterback to come in, but also opportunity. And I think that if you embrace it that way, that the world is there for you. How much do you think it would cost them to move up to 10 or 9? Honestly, do they have enough to give it that to make a move like that and not put everything else have everything else take a step back? That is sort of there, I guess.
The good news, bad news of this equation is when your job is sort of on the line, you are less hesitant to use future draft picks, right? And so 2022 draft picks don't mean anything to Ryan Pace if he's not going to be in the GM's chair when the 2022 draft arrives. And so he's got the luxury of saying, you know what, let's sweeten the deal with a pick from 2022. Let's sweeten the deal with 2 or 3 picks from 2022. There is a sentiment around the league right now that those 2022 picks may be more valuable than some of the mid-round stuff in 2021 because teams are going to be able to be more thorough with the pre-draft process this next year than they were last year when COVID restricted how much they were able to get out to games with their scouting staffs, how much they were able to do in the pre-draft process with visits and the combine being canceled and pro days being basically your only access to guys and doing all these meetings over Zoom. And so it will be a hefty price. There's no doubt about it. You have to be willing to pay it, though, when you're in a state of desperation. I know you always like it when I bring a notebook, so I'm going to give you a list here. We've got our notebook list for the day. Between 2011 and 2020, there were 17 trade-ups made for quarterbacks. 12 of those quarterbacks are no longer with the team that drafted them or are out of the league. And I'm going to run down the list from 2011 through 2020. You can react one at a time at these names. Blaine Gabbert.
Oh, my gosh.
RG3. Brandon Weeden. EJ Manuel. Johnny Manziel. Teddy Bridgewater. Jared Goff. Carson Wentz. Paxton Lynch. Mitch Trubisky. Patrick Mahomes. Deshaun Watson. Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, Lamar Jackson, Jordan Love. So there's 2 MVPs on that list, but there's also a lot of guys who circled the drain and were gone before they got to their second contract with that team. And so that's the risk. It's the risk reward that all these teams are playing, and it's going to happen. And, we've already seen the 49ers move up. We already know what's happening with the Jaguars and the Jets. And so now let's play chess, right? Thursday night, put the pieces on the board and see how they move. You
think about, though, the Hall of Famers that are not on that list, obviously. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. These were guys that Tom Brady is like the anomaly, of course, but like even Aaron Rodgers, watching him fall, sit in that green room, like I think that image is like burned on everyone's head. But you see that there is talent to be had there, and hopefully that the Bears are able to stay in a position where they minimal cost to get maximum gain out of a position they absolutely have to have. And so hopefully that will play out that way. I mean, I hope it does. What will you miss about the virtual part of the draft, Dan? It was fun last year. I didn't think it was that weird.
Well, I mean, for the Bears' sake, they don't have to worry about vacuums knocking out their connection to the league office and things of that nature. So Ryan Pace said that they will have a group of 10 assembled in their high-tech draft room at Hallis Hall. That's a luxury for them. The coaches will be in their respective offices, also in the building, which gives them a level of communication that is a little bit different than a year ago. It'll still be virtual for me. We're not allowed back in the premises at Hallis Hall, so it'll be me, my laptop, and my television again. The Bears do have a first-round pick for the first time in 3 years, so I've got to be prepared to work on Thursday night of the draft, whereas the last couple of years, it's, just kick your feet up, throw your hand behind your head, and see if there's a trade, but otherwise just have an easy evening. It's going to be a long weekend. Our old friend Rich Campbell and I, we always used to root for cold temperatures and a lot of rain on Saturday of the draft because it's such a long marathon day. Not going to get our wish this year. Tracy Butler from ABC7 is projecting 76 degrees and sunny Saturday afternoon. So that's going to be a painful Saturday as I stare at the television and the Twitter.
True. I just want to let you know, as a weekend warrior who works I pray for that every Saturday.
It's so selfish, right?
But everybody has to stay inside and watch ABC7.
It's so selfish, but it's just a human urge. I just don't want other people enjoying a beautiful spring day while I'm trapped trying to learn about, a third-tier offensive lineman from Division III.
But think how that will pay off in the end for you, Dan. You'll be just one step ahead.
Never has.
All right, well, buckle up. It is sure to bring the unexpected starting tomorrow night. It's the eve of the draft. I'm really jazzed. I'm really excited.
Jazzed. I like it. The Bears have 8 picks. That means potentially 8 players. They may move around. They may only have 6. They may wind up with 10. But we'll actually have a smaller pool of players to discuss at this time next week. I could not be more excited.
Me neither. I'll meet you here.
Sounds good.